Tonight on News at 9, against Uma Oya. Out of 3 committee members, only Minister Mahinda Amaravira arrives to visit Uma Oya multipurpose project.
First at 9, this is Derana 24/7.
Also making headlines tonight, another strike. GMOA warns of an indefinite strike action from the 5th of July over Saitam issue. Investment on the economy. World Bank says reforms need commitment from the government of Sri Lanka. Joint opposition rally. Former president says present government has failed in every aspect in developing the country. And in sports, defending champions, St. Thomas's College Mount Lavinia successfully defends school's Rugby Sevens title. Good evening, Mahesh Johnny with Derana 24/7. Tonight we begin with another news of a looming doctor strike. As of now, a solution for the Saitam issue seems to be nowhere in sight. It was quite evident when the Government Medical Officers Association announced today that it will return to an indefinite trade union action starting on Wednesday. The key reason for this is the government's failure to find a solution to their issue. Speaking at a media briefing today, GMOA's Assistant Secretary Dr. Chandana Dharmaratna added that while the GMOA remains open to dialogue, any discussions must end in an agreement acceptable for both parties.
Appealing to all politicians in the government and in the opposition who have any sense of fair play and decency to stand up with us to preserve the medical education and therefore the standards of medical care in this country. We have taken several decisions in our future campaign. So we will be convening district-based committees to further enlighten the people about this issue. We have already appealed to trade unions and all other organizations to support us on this stand. And from July 5th, the GMOA will be declaring a continuous trade union action spanning the country. So we hope that the authorities will respond positively even at this late stage.
Minister of Megapolis and Western Development, Partly Champika Ranawaka, had harsh words today over the existence of Saitam, stating it should be abolished. These views by the minister was expressed at a media briefing in Colombo today. When journalists raised questions about the duration of service of Professor Carlo Fonseca in the chairmanship of the Sri Lanka Medical Council, the minister said that it would not solve the problems at hand. The medical degrees awarded by the Medical Institution of Saitam should be abolished as soon as possible. There should be justice for the recruited students as well. Who created this issue? It was former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. He was the one who facilitated everything and created these issues. Some people say that they were against these when they were part of the previous government. Under the rule of Mahinda Rajapaksa, he did not allow any of those senior leaders to speak against it. They were not brave enough to speak about it. If this was the government of former President Rajapaksa, things would not end up by thrashing the students who protested.
Meanwhile, the minister also commented on the duration of service of the outgoing chairman of the Sri Lanka Medical Council, Professor Carlo Fonseca.
We do not think that by removing Professor Carlo Fonseca from this post would solve the problems. Therefore, the problems should be solved with him, and after that, if he wants to retire, let him do so. Otherwise, it will have a bad impact to these issues. We agreed with Minister Rajitha Senaratne when he proposed to take over the Neville Fernando Hospital to the government. But we are against the decision of listing Saitam in the stock market. Education is not something to be sold at the stock market. The Fourth Magistrates Court today ordered the Medical Faculty Parents Union to remove their platform used for the Satyagraha on the 5th of this month. The court order was given after the members of the Parents Union was produced in courts today.
The Satyagraha, organized by the Medical Faculty Parents Union against Saitam Medical College, continued for a 6th day adjacent to the Colombo Fort railway station. Following a court order, 4 members from Medical Faculty Parents Union appeared before the Fort Magistrates Court today. Members affirmed the courts that their protest was non-violent and was not hindering the public. Despite this, the magistrate ordered the removal of the platform on which the protest was taking place by 6 p.m. on the 5th of this month. The parents have shown their consent on the given order.
This is a political issue. When a government policy is formed, people should have a way to show their objection if needed. Also, we should have a way to reach a solution. The most accepted method for this is to hold discussions. But the government has decided not to go for discussions with any. A second way is to carry out a silent protest. This is why we organized a Satyagraha. But the government is obstructing us by using police and the courts. So what path will be left for the public to express their opinions? The accusation was that we disturbed public peace and disrupted a pedestrian lane. We explained facts to the court, and the court listened to us, and we gave our word to remove the platform by 6 o'clock on the 5th. The visit of the Cabinet of Ministers appointed by President Maithripala Sirisena to investigate the Uma Oil project was confronted by the members of the People's Front against Uma Oil multipurpose scheme. They were confronted today during the field visit to Uma Oil multipurpose scheme.
Although members of the Cabinet Subcommittee appointed to examine controversies surrounding the Uma Oil multipurpose development project were scheduled to engage in a field visit today, Minister of Fisheries and State Minister for Mahavalley Development, Mahinda Amaraveera, was the only member who participated in the observation tour. Deputy Minister of Mahavalley Development and Environment, Anuradha Jayaratne, also joined Minister Amaraveera to visit the Bandaravela area. They witnessed damages caused to houses in the area, wells that had dried out, and other environmental damages inflicted by the Uma Oil project. The minister also reviewed the relief program for those affected by the project. During the observation visit, the convener of the People's Front against Uma Oil multipurpose scheme, Samantha Vidyaratna too, arrived at the location. At the time, Minister Mahinda Amaraveera was inspecting a severely damaged house. Deputy Director of Disaster Management for Badula District requested the minister to vacate the house due to its risk. Although the minister attempted to move out of the house, Samantha Vidyaratna requested him not to leave without providing a solution, creating a tense situation.
We clearly see that we have a problem here. We will not advise to stop this project. We are ready to accept a solution given by the technical team. Welcome back, everyone. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa claims that the former government has made him a perpetrator to cover up their mistakes. He expressed these views at a rally organised by the members of the joint opposition in Trincomalee today.
Members of the joint opposition voiced against the government's alleged plan of selling the Trincomalee oil tank complex. They put forward 3 major demands during the rally.
You will have to live with fear when foreign powers take over Trincomalee. It will have a greater impact than terrorism. There is no point of talking about Ranil Wickremesinghe and the President. After 2.5 years, it is proven that these two could not do 10% of what Mahinda Rajapaksa did earlier. They're going to allow India to steal the world's second natural harbour in Trincomalee. They are also trying to allow an American army base. Sri Lankan citizens will not allow such acts even if they have to die for this. They are trying to introduce an act now. Then foreigners will be able to intervene when cases are filed against us. This act will be brought to Parliament by day after tomorrow. It is not necessary to question about stealing from the temple donation tills. Then it will spread to all religious institutions. This is a process against all religions. In other local stories, Executive Director of PAFREL, Rohana Hettiarachchi, observes that this is not a conducive period of time for the government to postpone local government elections. Speaking to Ada Derana, Rohana Hettiarachchi pointed to the government's lack of political will to hold elections as a negative sentiment.
Also, we realize that it will not badly affect for the postponement of elections. It is effect only on the start date of the local government, local authorities. But anyway, this is not the good time to make this kind of gazette notifications, because a lot of people are out on the elections and they are not happy with the present contest, because almost 2 years now the election has postponed and there is no political will for a election, especially from the government side.
The Board of Trustees operating under the Department of Buddhist Affairs has affixed seals upon 37 collection tills of the historic Kandi Viharaya in Aludgama for accounting irregularities. The chief incumbent of the temple, Venerable Batuwanhe Neshri Buddharakhitatera, expressed disapproval at the move, saying that they are now unable to utilize funds as required for management of the temple.
37 collection tills of Kandi Viharaya in Aludgama, along with several shrines under the purview of the temple, were affixed with seals yesterday. The Assistant Commissioner of the Department of Buddhist Affairs, KDSK Kurupu, said this was done according to protocol to obtain financial records. The chief incumbent of the temple, Venerable Batuwanhe Neshri Buddharakhitatera, however, alleged that such actions had never taken place in the past. Meanwhile, Minister of Education Akila Viraj Karyawasam had this to say on the matter.
The actions of commissioners of the Department of Buddhist Affairs are putting the government in trouble. Have they checked the accounts of these temples? Chief incumbents of temples have been contacting me over issues arising from income, which amounts to about 10 billion rupees.
It is time now to take a look at more stories making news across Sri Lanka. Police arrested 5 suspects wanted in connection with the incident where a group of people had opened fire at a van carrying cash in Ragama and robbed 7.8 million rupees. No casualties were reported in the incident, which took place on the 26th of last month. The police said all 5 suspects were later produced before the Maharagama Magistrates Court. The Dehiwala Zoological Gardens will be kept open to the public for an additional 3 hours daily, effective from September 9th. The Minister of Sustainable Development and Wildlife announced today that the new attractions will be included. The Zoological Garden will thereby be open until 10 p.m. A grade 9 student of the Pitipana Mahinda Rajapaksa school succumbed to his injuries after falling down from the footboard of the bus that he was travelling in after school. The student has been admitted to the Homagama Base Hospital and later transferred to the Colombo National Hospital. Sir Lagisa, a biography of late Felix Premawardana, was launched recently at Wesley College, Colombo. The book was authored by veteran print and electronic journalist Upul Janaka Jayasinghe. The event, which was organized by the National Christian Council of Sri Lanka, was presided over by Emeritus Professor Walter Marasinghe. Late Felix Premawardana was an eminent communicator, scriptwriter, broadcaster, actor and a director. Welcome back everyone on to international news. US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin have been circling one another, intrigue yet at a distance, ever since the former real estate tycoon launched his convention-busting White House bid. This week they will come face to face in one of the most keenly awaited meetings between two heads of state in years, one that is rich with political, geostrategic and personal storylines. At the G20 summit in Germany, Trump will greet the man believed by US intelligence agencies to have conceived an intelligence plot to disrupt last year's election and to help him take power.
Trump is expected to talk to Putin about Russia's support for Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and Moscow's actions in Ukraine. Trump's meeting with Putin comes amid a swirl of controversy surrounding Trump's posture towards Russia. Meanwhile, in Qatar, Qatar's foreign minister has arrived in Kuwait to hand over the state's response to the list of 13 demands from Saudi Arabia and 3 other countries. Foreign Minister Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani is meeting Kuwait's Emir Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmad Al Sabah today to discuss the demands. One of the key demands from Saudi Arabia to Qatar was to stop funding the state-led media network Al Jazeera, to which Al Jazeera responded by demanding press freedom.
To those who demand that Al Jazeera be shut down
and that people's right to the truth be suppressed,
we too have demands.
We demand journalists be able to do their jobs
free from intimidation and threats.
We demand
press freedom.
Well, let's get reaction to that story and other stories making headlines across the world. Joining me live and now from the newsroom is Anuradha Herath. She's the Chief International Affairs Analyst. Anuradha, thank you very much for joining us and welcome once again. I want to pick up from that last story which we saw in the package about Al Jazeera and how Saudi Arabia is trying to suppress the fact that they want to get rid of Al Jazeera. Now, Al Jazeera is in the hot waters and Saudi Arabia insists that they get rid of this news network. Now, what do you think the real reason behind this?
So I guess one of the obvious reasons is because Al Jazeera has developed itself to become a really great, a powerful network right across the world. So I think that is perhaps one of the key reasons, and perhaps the Saudis and other Arabian countries don't particularly like or approve of the messages that are conveyed in some of their reporting. But internally at the highest levels, what's really going on, none of us can really say. Operations are just continuing as they have been, and the indications are that nothing's really going to be changing. What we see is a deadline approaching on Tuesday, which has been an extended deadline. Nothing happened in the first deadline on Sunday. It came and went. So it's hard to imagine it all of a sudden shutting down on Tuesday. I think it's just this conflict is just going to be, going on for a little while longer.
If we take our attention back into the US and this key meeting, the G20 meeting, which is going to happen this week, the meeting between Trump and Putin, which is leading towards much speculation back in the US, saying that finally the cahoots who allegedly manipulated the elections back in November is now meeting. So how do you think this affects Trump back in the US?
So he's going to have to walk a very fine line because, as you said, a lot of people back home in the U.S. Are not really favorably, looking towards this meeting with the Russian president. If you remember, when he met with the Russian ambassador, that didn't go too well either in terms of public opinion in the U.S. So people don't want to see President Trump being overly friendly with President Putin, and they want to see him really address some of the key hardline issues. So on that front, he has to, sort of not seem overly friendly. But on the other hand, President Trump also wants to build up good relations with Russia. So it's a really fine line that he's going to have to walk to maintain that sort of official cordiality, if you will, as well as not seeming overly friendly. But then again, it's President Trump, so you don't really know exactly what he's going to do. He might just go off the cuff depending on the mood that he is, and it's really unpredictable, which is why I think this meeting is such a newsworthy event.
So it comes down to my next question, Anuradha. What do you think they would actually discuss during this meeting?
So other than, I mean, it's hard to say if they'll talk about it and how they will talk about these alleged allegations of interference in elections. But putting that aside, there are a couple of other issues that they may talk about. One is sanctions, right? So there are currently sanctions against Russia. Congress, the U.S. Congress is considering additional sanctions as well. So that could very well be a topic of concern. Whether President Trump decides to roll back those sanctions or not, it's difficult to say, but that could very well be on the table for the discussion. And as well, the conflicts in Syria and Ukraine are most likely, going to be another potential area that the two leaders will discuss at this meeting.
Exactly. Well, we will be meeting once again during later on in the week to discuss more on what exactly went through at the G20 meeting. Anuradha Herath, other Chief International Affairs Analyst, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Well, let's move on to business news. According to the latest World Bank annual rating, Sri Lanka is ranked 110th among 190 economies in the Ease of Doing Business Index, sliding back from 79th position in 2012. With an ambitious plan to bring Sri Lanka within the top 70 economies by 2020, the government officially launched the Roadmap on Investment Climate Reforms in Sri Lanka at Temple Trees today.
The Roadmap on Investment Climate Reforms in Sri Lanka aims to address issues in the institutional setup for coordination and collaboration among different line ministries and agencies in areas covered by the World Bank Group Doing Business report. Thereby, 8 technical task forces that fall under the purview of the Ministry of Development Strategies and International Trade were appointed today to implement reforms in the areas of starting a business, dealing with construction permits, registering property, obtaining credit, protecting minority investors, trading across borders, enforcing contracts and resolving insolvency. Speaking at the event, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe said that the government aims to provide trade adjustment packages and incentives to transform Sri Lanka into an export-driven economy.
We need an export-oriented economy. But I am not talking of economy which is in 2 sectors called the exporters and the domestic market economy. The exporters pushing to have a climate that will permit more exports, and the domestic market enterprises pushing for a climate that will restrict import. We have to go in one direction. If we are looking at the problems we face, the need to service our debts, to need to repay our debts, then we want everyone to become export. Or we want everyone to be a competitive manufacturer. We must climb back from the position we occupy now to the 70th position.
We all know and understand that reforms are difficult and challenging, even for those who stand to gain from from their implementation. I believe that the package of reforms is sound, and overall it is going to be very beneficial. But to get better than satisfactory impact from the reform process, it will need commitment and perseverance. Sri Lanka needs to assert its position firmly both in the region and internationally. The intention is not to shame, but to encourage and review the opportunities for corrective measures.
Let's take you to the stock market now. Colombo equities made a cautious start to the new month despite consistent foreign inflows. The ASPI dipped 14.01 to close at 6,733.06, while the S&P SL20 index closed at 3,929.48 with a drop of 4.03 index points. Market turnover was 641 million rupees. Foreign investors were net buyers of 189 million rupees. We now have the daily market update with Imeshi Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange.
Top 5 gainers of the day were Union Chemicals, Palm Garden Hotel, Adam Capital, Blue Diamonds and Guardian Capital, while the top 5 losers were Kelsey Developments, Ceylon Printers, Convenience Foods, Ceylon Leather Products and Citizen Development Business Finance.
Welcome back, everyone. St. Thomas's College, for the first time in the illustrious history, successfully defended the school's Rugby Sevens championships last evening at the Racecourse International Rugby Stadium. The Thomians, led by Naveen Henakankanamge, beat Isipathana College in the final for a second successive year to end what has been a disappointing 2017 on a very high note.
St. Thomas's took the final with a scoreline of 19 points to 14 with tries from Dian Dias and Mayon Jayawardena in the first half and one from the player of the tournament, Naveen Henakankanamge, in the second half to seal the game. The Thomians beat St. Peter's College in the quarter-final before narrowly beating Trinity College in the semi-final, whilst Isipathana picked up wins over St. Anthony's College and Kingswood College on their way to the final. Meanwhile, in a repeat of last year's plate final, St. Peter's College reversed the result, beating Science College 24 points to 12, while St. Joseph's College took the bowl, beating Wesley College 26 points to 0, and Piliyandala Central claimed the shield with a win over Moratua Vidyalaya.
Mahamaya College, Kandy and St. Joseph's College, Maradana both successfully defended their titles in the 44th edition of the All-Ireland Age Group Aquatic Championships last evening. Yet again, Mahamaya won the Girls' Championship with a total of 518 points, whilst Vishaka Vidyalaya finished a close second with 507 points. In the male category, St. Joseph's College dominated with 560, while Royal finished second with 381 points. Into cricket now, Sri Lanka lost their third game of the ICC Women's World Cup last evening to host England in a 7-wicket thrashing at the county ground in Taunton. Meanwhile, Australia and South Africa also put in dominant performances last evening, continuing their unbeaten runs in the tournament.
Having won the toss and elected to bat, Sri Lanka only managed 204 for 8 in their 50 overs, with Hasini Pereira top scoring with 46, while Laura Marsh picked up 4 for 45 for the hosts. England in reply chased the 205-run target in just 30 overs, losing 3 wickets, with Heather Knight scoring a 76-ball 82, while Sarah Taylor remained unbeaten on 74 of 67 balls.
They win by 7 wickets.
Meanwhile, in Bristol, Australia chased down 219 put on by New Zealand in 48.4 overs, with Elise Perry's well-paced 71 helping the Aussies to a 5-wicket win. Table toppers India put on 169 in their 50 overs before bowling out Pakistan for just 74, with Ekta Bisht picking up 5 for 18 in her 10 overs. In the last game of the evening, South Africa bundled out the West Indies for just 48, with Mary Zane Cap and Dane Van Nicker claiming 4 scalps each before their opening batters chased down the target in just 6.2 overs.
Well, Katharina Chang is at the Weather Centre with your weather.
A very good evening and welcome to the Weather Centre. Now we can expect light showers over the western, Sabragama and central provinces and in the Gaul and Mathe districts over the next 24 hours, while thunder showers may make landfall at several locations in the island, particularly in the eastern Uva and north central provinces and in the Mullaitivu and Vavuniya districts. Now fairly strong winds of about 50 km per hour can be expected in the southern province. Let us now take a look at temperatures in key cities across the island on our City by City forecast.
And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I'm Mahesh Johnny, and Indi Viryamatha will join you tomorrow at 9 with the very latest. And as always, before we end tonight's bulletin, we like to leave you with sights and sounds of the city of Colombo's distinctive landmarks. As you can see, the charm of the old Dutch hospital, the towering floral structure of Nelumpokuna Mahinda Rajapaksa Theatre, and finally the Independence Square Arcade. Thank you very much for joining. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information. information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.